Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Sarah and I'm so glad that you're here. As you can tell from the title of today's video, we are talking all things Contiki 2023-2024. So if you are watching this video, then I'm sure it means you're interested in going on a Contiki. And if you happen to click on this because you thought my channel looked like so much fun and you just can't wait to stay here forever and you hit the subscribe button because you want to be friends, love you. But in all seriousness, I'm sure that you guys are interested in Contiki, and from somebody who has gone on not one but two Contiki tours in my time, I have a lot of information to share. If you see me looking down, it's because I have so many notes to share with you guys. So I am really excited to tell you all about my latest trip that I did with them in September of 2023, and then also kind of share general knowledge and research, because I research everything meticulously. Like, you should see the spreadsheets I have. Let's just jump right into it, honestly. How does that sound to you? Pretty good? Let's go. So if you have no idea what Contiki is and you're just here for the vibes, love that. But Contiki is a group travel company, which it basically, you have to be 18 to 35 to travel with them, and it's kind of known for their fast-paced travel. You see a lot in a short amount of time, and people party a lot on these trips. You certainly don't have to. It's definitely like a legit company if that's something you're concerned about. I've done two trips with them. One was back in like 2017, and I went to Spain, Portugal, Morocco, and Gibraltar with them. And then I did another one September of 2023, and I went to a bunch of different countries: London, Amsterdam, the Rhine Valley, Munich, the Austrian Tyrol, Venice, Italy, the Swiss Alps, two different stops in France, including the French countryside and Paris, and then back to London. And it's a very popular one called the European Horizon trip. Main question: is Contiki worth it? I will say that my latest trip that I went on in September, I paid $1,716.05 for the Contiki. And so that's not including flights, but that does include some food, accommodations, transportation, that kind of stuff, which we'll dive into in a little bit. And I booked it when it was on sale. So they have a lot of sales going on. So if you just keep an eye out on the Contiki website, you'll definitely be able to find times where trips are on sale and a few $100s less than normal. And then that also included a $50 returning traveler discount. So if you have traveled with Contiki in the past, you do get a $50 discount on future trips that you book. So with all Contikis, you get a trip manager, and then you also get a driver. I broke it down into sections like transportation, food and drinks, managing expectations, accommodations, illness, and costs, friendships, and summing it up with, is Contiki worth it? And so let's just go ahead and jump into transportation first. Essentially, the coach that you are on is your home for the next however long your trip is. So I'm just going to use my trip for examples for things. So it was our home for 11 days, and you spend a ton of time on the coach, and there's a lot of long driving days unless you are staying in one country specifically and doing a slower travel trip. But for a lot of the Contikis, you're spending many hours on the coach, and I don't know if people are necessarily aware of that when they book these trips, but a lot of the times, like the trip that I did where we're going from, you know, London to Switzerland and all these places that are quite far apart, it means that you spend a lot of time on the coach. And that also means a couple of different things. One, there is Wi-Fi on board, but it is spotty, doesn't always work, and it is not unlimited. So go in knowing that. I paid for having my regular phone service every day. That was a choice that I made, but do what's best for you, whether that's get a local SIM card. Sometimes that's hard when you're changing so many countries, but look into your options for that. So Wi-Fi is not unlimited on the coach. Food and drink is allowed with some restrictions. There's no like hot beverages, like no hot coffee. Everything has to have a lid. No like really stinky foods, things like that that make sense. It's basically consideration for your coach driver who cleans the coach every single day, and the other travelers that you're with. My trip that I just went on, we had 46 people on board. Most people take the time on the coach to sleep. You are going to be sleep deprived and exhausted, which we'll get into that. On this last trip, I don't think I slept on the coach at all, but the time before that, I took every opportunity to. So it totally just depends, but use that time wisely. I use it to like edit photos and videos and that kind of stuff, chat with the other people on board, because there is a lot of friends to make. And with kind of moving into food and drink from here, our next category, the setup is interesting. So some food and drink, like I said, is included on your trip and some is not. So essentially breakfast will be included almost every single day, if not every single day of your Contiki, and 9 times out of 10 that is breakfast in your hotel or hostel. That's just what it is. Sometimes the food is good, sometimes it is not. And what are you gonna do, you know? So that's always included. There's always some dinners included, but most of the time you're on your own for lunch, like 95% of the time, and most of the time you're on your own for dinner, or there's an add-on dinner, which we'll talk about when we talk about activities. So that's kind of the setup. And for breakfast, at least on this last trip, we essentially, every day that we were on the road, we stopped at like a roadside stop, fast food type, rest stop-esque place where they had like food courts or gas stations where they had fast food services inside, and you could go in and purchase your food and go ahead and have lunch there. Or it was during free time activity where you could just do a walkabout and go around and find somewhere that you wanted to eat, and then snacks and everything like that are always on you. So that's the setup of the food. Also, it does have an option for you to submit dietary restrictions, whether you're, you know, gluten-free or vegetarian, vegan, that kind of stuff, and they'll do their absolute best to accommodate you. Another thing, there is always a farewell dinner, and I would recommend always booking that. 9 times out of 10, I think it is an add-on, and that's something that I would definitely pay for. We had our farewell dinner this past time in Paris, and we went to this like very cool Parisian style place, and I had like French onion soup, and they had like chicken and different options. Some people had fish, things like that, and it's kind of like a nicer, like people get dressed up, but it's your last time that you're likely all ever going to be together as a big group, and I find that it's very, very fun, and so I would recommend definitely booking that. So that's kind of I think the most pertinent information about meals, but let's move on to managing expectations. I have always found that the accommodations have been good enough, and sometimes good enough is simply just good enough, you know? So in order for Contiki to have lower prices for trips, most of the time that means you're sacrificing location. And I've seen a couple of places that were absolutely incredible locations right in the city center, things like that. Most of the time that's not going to be the case. The places are going to be outside of the city center because the prices are cheaper, which means they can get better rates, and that also leads to a couple of things on the traveler's end that's important to note. It means that most of the time there will be a transportation drop-off into the city center at the beginning of your free time for the evening. Most of the time, if you're doing a drive day, you'll spend most of the day driving, you'll get to the destination in the afternoon, and then you'll have like a little while, sometimes not, to like get changed, get ready, take your bags up to your room, and then there will be a city center drop off, or sometimes there will be like an activity that you can be going to that's like an add-on activity. But the drivers do also have to take into consideration their driving laws and limits and time limits and everything. We want our people to be safe, and obviously that means that they can't just be at your beck and call. And so there will be a drop off, and then you'll have to find your own way back, whether that's a train, a taxi, Uber, whatever that might be, depending on what city you're in. Sometimes it's easy to get to and from the hostel or hotel. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging, and especially depending on what's going on in the city. Like, I was at Oktoberfest, and when we were in Paris, it was the Rugby World Cup. So getting on and off transportation and or finding an Uber or Lyft or anything like that was amplified in difficulty. But just take those things into consideration. That will happen whether you're traveling on your own or with a travel group. So it's just part of the travel experience. You just got to roll with the punches when they come. But the accommodations are honestly like quite fun. Sometimes you can opt to pay for another room, but I really love the like summer camp-esque feel of being in hostels in general. I love a good hostel stay, but especially like with these people that you're forming friendships with and relationships with throughout the trip, a lot of the times it's just a good time. And the first trip I did, it was a triple occupancy hotel only trip, and so I shared a room with 2 other girls that I didn't know because I traveled solo for both of these trips. But by the end, one of them is now one of my best friends, and I love her so much. hey Em, if you're watching this. And then for this trip that I just went on in September, it was a hostel only trip, and so we stayed in hostels, and there was like anywhere from like 4 to 6 of us in a room per night, but it totally depends on what you book, and they will let you know what the accommodations are on the Contiki website. Sometimes you can pay for a private room. I personally, don't think it's worth it unless maybe you're a couple going, then that would be worth it to see if you could do just like the 2 of you. If you're traveling by yourself, I recommend forcing yourself to be a little more social. With that being said, there are also a couple of special stay locations where these are Contiki owned properties, and they were so fun. Like so fun. We stayed in one in the Austrian Tyrol, and so that was kind of like this like ski chalet type, like up in the mountains place. I'll insert some photos and stuff here. And there was also a special like Contiki only party, and sometimes there's other Contiki groups staying in these accommodations at the same time, and that's so fun because you kind of get to meet other travelers that are on different trips and happen to be staying there at the same time. So much fun. And then the second one we stayed in was in the wine country region in France, in Bordeaux, France, and we stayed in this literal like mansion chateau type place, and it was so fun. They had a pool, we had a party, we had a private bar there, and you're kind of just like there, and we had dinner, and it was just so much fun. I wish we had 2 nights. We did have 2 nights there, but I wish we had more time because it was so much fun. They had like yoga in the morning that you could go do, and the grounds were beautiful. We went wine tasting. Just so fun, like so fun. The special stays are amazing. If you have a chance to stay at one of those, I highly recommend. Next, we are on to the Contiki cough, which the infamous Contiki cough gets me every time. Like I said, 2 trips, sick as a dog after each one, and it's not wildly unexpected because here's the thing, you're mixing 46 people from different countries, different states, different jobs, different backgrounds, traveling different periods of time, going from, place to place, country to country. You're on a bus, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting probably, balanced meals every single day, you're consuming possibly a lot of alcohol, and everyone is exhausted. You're walking so much every day, and traveling's exhausting to begin with, but then you put 46 18 to 35-year-olds together, it is gonna be a little wild sometimes. Through 7 countries in like an 11-day period, it's a lot to put your body through, and so the chances of you getting sick is very high. I come back every time I travel so sick, and I just come as prepared as possible. I bring cough drops, medicine, I bring everything you can think of, Advil, Dramamine, throat coat tea, antibiotics, band-aids. Like I definitely bring a first aid kit and like a sick kit with me so that I can be as prepared as possible. I brought liquid IV last time, tried to get more sleep and be responsible, and I still got sick. Like I said, I didn't even go out every night. I didn't drink every night. I really didn't drink heavily besides one evening, and that was towards the very end of the trip, and I was already feeling sick at that point. So, you can try and prevent it, do all the things, but it doesn't mean you're going to get out scot-free. It just is gonna happen, and it is not fun. I will tell you, it's not fun, but it kind of is inevitable if you want to go on a Contiki. Very few people got out without it this time. Everyone feels kind of, worn down and drained by the end of the trips. Let's talk about cost. So like I said, for this last trip, I paid $1,716.05 US dollar for the European Horizon trip. I purchased this on sale, had the $50 credit, and I divided up into payments. And okay, so it must be paid in full 45 days before your trip begins. Important things to note, not every meal is included. Don't feel pressured into doing the add-on activities, but there are add-on activities, and so that means that the cost is added on if you want to participate because it's not included in your initial cost. And so a lot of times these are activities like, for example, on the European Horizon trip, that was a bike ride in Munich, which I opted not to do because bike riding in cities freaks me out. The farewell dinner that I said I always recommend. We did a canal cruise in Amsterdam, which I thought was definitely worth it. It was very fun. There was free wine on board. We did a wine tasting in St. Goar in this like underground cavern, which was really cool, and that was an add-on activity. In Switzerland, like I said, there was train that I didn't go on, but I did go paragliding in Austria, and also in Austria I did whitewater rafting, which you can see here, and those were both quite expensive add-ons, but I knew before I went on the trip I absolutely wanted to do it. So my suggestion is, when you're calculating costs for the trip, include every single add-on activity in what you plan on spending when you're there, and also with the money that you're planning on spending for food, add more than you think that you're going to need, because with snacks, with alcohol, if you drink, know that you're going to spend a lot of money on alcohol if you choose to drink on the trip, which is partially why I opted out of drinking a lot on this trip, because I just simply didn't want to spend the outrageous amounts of money on cocktails all the time when I was traveling. And plus, another reason that I didn't want to drink is because, you know, I'm getting closer to 30 and hangovers are not my friend anymore, and I did not want to spend my entire trip feeling hungover and sick. And so I really wanted to like be fully present and in the moment, and seeing the cities, capturing the cities, like taking so many photos and videos and all the things, and I didn't want to be feeling like trash the whole time. And so I just I would opt to, you know, pace yourself or spread it out a little bit. Some people go really hard, and that's just never been who I am. And so I think it's a little easier. Also, the older you get, the like less you feel the need to do that, I think, at least for me. But just, you know, don't feel pressured. I really want you to have it be the experience that you want it to be. With that being said, the friendships that you will make on this trip, I have no words. The friendships are so special, like next level. There's something about traveling with somebody, spending every waking second seeing them at their best, their worst, their sickest, they're tired, they're hungry. Like your friendship happens so fast, and you're spending every waking second and just hours and hours on the coach just chit-chatting and talking and seeing these incredibly beautiful places together, and it kind of just cements your friendship early on, and you'll find people who just feel like soulmate friends. And like I said, one of the girls on my first trip, she has become one of my very best friends. I still keep up with multiple of them, and that was 5-6 years ago. And then the trip that I just went on, there was just, I swear that trip was like food for the soul. It was unbelievably like touching and heartwarming, and the friendships I made were amazing. The people were incredible. I really opened myself up to like being so present in the moment. I didn't film as much as I planned because I just like wanted to soak it all in. It truly felt like medicine for the soul, and we just had so much fun. I love getting to experience travel with people from all over the world, hear people's different perspectives and different cultures and different thoughts on things, and talk about like everything under the sun. And having the opportunity to do that with a group of people who have similar interests and are just as passionate about things as you are is so special. And we have like a group chat that we message each other in, keep each other updated. I've actually, like, my trip tour guide came and visited me in San Francisco. I like showed her around the city, played trip guide for her, which was really fun. And I'm planning a meetup with another couple that lives in Southern California, and we're gonna like meet in the middle. And I want to plan a trip to Australia to go see all my Australian friends that I made on the trip. So it just like connects you to people all over the world, and the friendships are unlike anything else that I promise you've experienced. Like, just, oh, no words. So good, so good, so fun. Like I said, I came into both of these trips as a solo traveler. So if you're thinking about coming with a friend, do it for sure. But also, I would say 3/4 of people on these trips are solo travelers, and so don't feel intimidated or scared to come by yourself, because a ton of people do, and that's really a freeing experience, I think, because you can just show up, be you, make friends, and so many people are in the same boat. Everyone's there because they wanted to travel with other people. Everyone wants to make friends. People are generally like so kind and so nice, and it's so fun. Like, the friendships are quick and deep, and sometimes they last and sometimes they don't, but I have found that, you know, putting effort into the friendships that I've made on these trips has really resulted in lasting, true, deep, long-term friendships. So now that we've covered a lot of topics, a lot of information, is Contiki worth it? That is the overarching question of all of this. And if you can't tell from my video, I have a screaming, yes, it's worth it. Absolutely. Here's the thing. It is worth it for so many of the reasons that I listed in this video. You have an entire trip planned out for you. You show up to the coach, you get on, they drive you to the destination, they get you off, they give you recommendations, you have a trip guide who has done this many times, has so much information to share. You get, you know, tidbits of information about the culture and the language, and you get these really unique experiences, sometimes at a discounted price because they have group packages. You have, you know, a automatic group of friends to go do these things with. You have the comfort of knowing that there's a company. If there's a problem, they're there to help you and help resolve issues. Like, for example, there was somebody on the trip the first time around that had a visa problem getting into Morocco, which as a US citizen, I didn't have to have a visa to get into Morocco, but they did, and so that was resolved through Contiki, and you can ask them questions before. Their customer service is really good. You have your trip manager to solve any issues during the trip, and your driver is knowledgeable and will get you to and from where you're going very safely, and they have very high standards for their employees. I know their training is quite rigorous for both the trip managers and the drivers, and so you get all of that experience, and you get, you know, a laid out trip for you. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to plan it. You truly could show up to your trip with not even knowing where you're going and know that you're going to see the best of the best in each place that you go to. With that being said, I think that the downfall is, one, you know, it is quick and so you miss a lot, but I kind of view Contiki trips as a highlight reel or a, you know, preview of a country, and that way I know, like, oh, would I want to go back here and explore more on my own? I think it also is a really great bridge for solo travel if you have never traveled on your own before, or if it makes you nervous. I think it's a really great place to start. Like, when I first did my Contiki, I did a solo trip to Europe. It was my first time going to Europe, and I did that trip, and then I traveled by myself on the back end of that trip. And then this time when I went on Contiki, I did like 2 weeks completely on my own. I went from like London to Brussels and Amsterdam and Cologne, Germany, and I did that completely solo. And then I joined the Contiki on the second half of my trip when I was gone for about a month, and so I did that on the back end because at that point I was like, okay, I'm exhausted. I've done so much like planning and thinking and having to be the one in charge of every decision, getting myself from A to B every time, and travel can be exhausting. And so Contiki kind of takes the pressure off of decision making and having to know where you're going and all of that kind of stuff, which really does alleviate a lot of stress. And so it depends on what you're looking for, the experience you're looking for, but absolutely, like, you just don't have to plan anything yourself, and it's really a fun, chaotic, wild experience. And like I said, it's from 18 to 35, and if you're in that age range, I would recommend doing it. I think it was a really wonderful experience. And I also will say Contiki is something that I view as, like, if there's a country that I wouldn't want to travel to solo, like Morocco, I wouldn't personally feel comfortable traveling there by myself completely alone the same way that I did and would travel places like Amsterdam and Germany and, you know, England and Belgium and things like that. It was a little scary to me to do solo, and so I went on the Contiki, where we also had a local guide in that place, and you just feel safer, and I think there's safety in numbers most of the time, and so that is like a comforting thing. So countries that you might not want to go to by yourself, you could always join a group trip for. Like, I would consider doing a trip in Turkey, or they just started these amazing looking tours doing safaris in Africa. I would absolutely do a Contiki for a safari. Amazing. But I just wanted to say all of this info is current as of February of 2024 when I'm filming this, and I hope this was helpful. If it was, please like, comment, subscribe down below. I have so much more info to share. I might make a second video if you guys have questions, but I'm so glad I got to share it. Like I said, my experience was amazing. I highly recommend for all the reasons listed. And once again, I'm Sarah. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!